Hi there, Davey. This is your old buddy Ken Bank talking, and it's been a long time since I put a video response up, but here we go. Your recent interview with Mr. Vieira touched a couple of issues, interesting ones, and I prepared a little rant in response to the discussion that you had with him. So I'm going to read it here. I think most campaigns to save the world are run by people who are misled by their own arrogance. The world doesn't need saving. It just needs us to stop mucking it up. That said, I think that Mr. Vieira is to be commended for his perseverance against, in the face of, such obvious resistance to his message. I am reminded of Albert Einstein's definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. After listening to him speak on the subject of the gospel, I do not doubt Mr. Vieira's devotion to it one bit. However, his approach to evangelism seems intense and insensitive. What I'm hearing is that his whole aim is to preach his brand of the gospel to the Poles. He's not considering the needs of the people who are hearing his message. He should take his lessons from the very book from which he preaches. Acts of kindness and charity go a long way to opening the ears of those who are ready to listen. Standing on street corners is old hat, and he should know better than anyone else by now that it doesn't work. He needs a new formula. Following the example of Jesus, if he started doing good works, like feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, or healing the sick. In other words, if he started walking the walk instead of talking the talk, I think he'd start to get some real attention. Pass that on. Obsessing about homosexuality is like arguing over how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. It is a specious argument that serves no realistic purpose. Those people who are homosexuals, be they male or female, are not sick, nor are they necessarily depraved individuals. They comprise less than 10% of the general population, by most accounts. For all the hype to the contrary, it appears that homosexuality is not contagious, nor can someone be turned into a homosexual simply by becoming informed about homosexuality. Homosexuality is not merely a lifestyle choice, as many insist it is. This is an opinion based in ignorance. Rather, homosexual persons live a lifestyle that fits their sexual preferences more by nature than simply by choice. Some homosexual persons take on behaviors and appearances that seem transgendered, such as effeminate male homosexuals or masculine female homosexuals. You notice I'm not using the term gay here. I don't want to use the common term gay to describe homosexuals for two reasons. First, the word gay is a perfectly lovely English word that used to be widely used to describe a right good time, or someone who is jolly. Secondly, because homosexuals are essentially social pariahs, being a homosexual person is usually no cause for gaiety. It's an ironic label, really. So now, how do we rectify the biblical prescriptions against the practice of homosexuality with our modern existence? We seem to have direct prohibitions of, at least, male homosexuality in Scripture. Interestingly, female homosexuality seems to be a non-issue for the ancients. There seems to be a common thread in Scripture relating to sexual behaviors and morality. That is, the preservation of the patriarchy and forced sexual exclusivity of females for the purpose of determining heirs, and the conservation of one's seed, or semen, for use in procreation. For this reason, male masturbation is prohibited, but there seems to be no similar prohibition against female masturbation. There are prohibitions against men lying with or having sexual relations with other men, but no such direct prohibition against women. We have, in modern times, extrapolated these prohibitions against male homosexuality to apply to women as well, but I know of no direct biblical support for this. The practice of polygamy as well is similarly not prohibited in Old Testament scripture. Monogamy seems to be a more recent and Western style of social construct. The Bible itself contains examples of sexuality which would not be acceptable in society today, but was accepted by the ancients. The story of Tamar is a case in point. In the context of religious relevance, my theory is that ancient societies took the, quote, God-given, unquote, command to be fruitful and multiply, thus fill the earth, very seriously. Any waste of semen, therefore, was seen as a sin against God's mandate and thus a sin against God. Any sexual act that preempted the mandate, such as male homosexuality or masturbation, which cannot result in procreation, was banned. Since in ancient times women were treated more like property and homosexuality between women did not lessen their ability to conceive and bear children, it was not seen as a danger to God's mandate, and thus was not worth consideration in the law. By contrast, the ancient Greeks were tolerant of homosexuality, and their civilization did not seem to be negatively impacted by this. So, fast forward to now. We live in a very different world than the ancients did. We have indeed been fruitful and have multiplied and have filled the earth, to the point at which we now face serious negative effects due to overpopulation. God told us to be fruitful and multiply. Too bad he didn't tell us what to do once the task had been completed. Homosexuals comprise a much smaller percentage of the overall population than the attention they get from the religious sector and the noise it makes in the mass media would seem to indicate. Certainly, some homosexuals are vociferous activists when it comes to fighting for their civil rights, which adds to the media noise and attention. We should not take it upon ourselves to judge homosexuals, as only God is capable of judgment. We should just leave them alone to live their lives in peace, free from discrimination and the fear of persecution, and the isolation and exclusion that are the result of discrimination and persecution. We do not need to fix homosexuals because they are not broken. They are merely different. Our society will not fail because we choose to be tolerant toward homosexuality. Our churches will not fail because homosexuals wish to marry. Our children will not become homosexuals at any greater percentage than they already are, just because someone talks about it in their classrooms. If our society fails, it will fail because of our own greed, ignorance, and fanaticism, not because of homosexuality. Just my thoughts. Thanks.